smoke too much, I drink too much. I tell myself that I can't stop. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. That I can't stop. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. Clearly now. Clearly now. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. I smoke too much, I drink too much. I tell myself that I can't stop. We could see clearly now. 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 We could see clearly now, clearly now, clearly now. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. That I can't stop. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. I can't stop. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now.
Welcome. One second. Welcome to the Reverie Esports Qualifier for number 3 for the Rift Cup 3. I'm your caster Effects, joined by Octavian.
Good evening, everybody. How are we doing tonight? I'm doing quite well. I hope Effect is doing
I
quite
am
well.
also doing
Back,
quite
good
well.
to be.
I'm also back, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's good to be back in the desk with you, man. Thank you for covering for me last weekend. And we're into 10 bands
Oh yeah,
territory. This is exciting.
definitely gonna change
This is
things
the
up.
10 bands back and
It
forth.
definitely changes things up significantly because it's not 5 bands and 5 bands. It's 3 bands, pick a couple, then 2 more bands. It's pretty interesting. It's definitely gonna change up a lot of things.
Yes, and the teams banning against one another tonight for our first streamed match is 5-0 or 5-0. I'm not sure whether they want that to be a 0 or an O, versus Delusional Esports with 5-0 on blue and Delusional Esports on red. two teams who are fresh to our tournaments. I don't think we've. I personally don't believe I've casted either of these teams before, unless they were here last weekend.
I can't say I'm particularly familiar with either of them myself, but we're always happy to have some new blood. Let's see how well they do.
Yep. Pretty standard bands for the most part. Vladimir's a little odd, as is Victor. You don't see either of them terribly often anymore. Occasionally you'll see a Vladimir or a Victor sneak through, but they're not really string one picks at the moment. But Zach, Ari, Lisa, and Caitlin, these are all very, very familiar picks. Galio instantly being counterpicked by the Fiora, presuming that's a top lane Galio. Could go mid simply to avoid that Fiora, and I would actually really like to see that from 5-0. Galio's a great first pick because he's not only to some degree a little too strong at the current moment. He is getting some nerfs next patch, but he's also really flexible. He's got 3 different roles that he can arguably go to. Top and mid are his 2 best, but you can even play support Galio.
He's definitely been up and coming. He's definitely more than powerful enough to go into multiple roles. But a Fiora matchup is definitely not a favorable one if the Fiora, especially Fiora, gets rolling. And it is a Lulu support. So actually kind of surprised that Lulu made it to the band.
Yeah, she's seen less and less priority of late as supports have kind of moved into more of a meta where playmaking supports as opposed to harassing lane supports are really, really strong. That's not to say that Lulu doesn't still have her place, and she's still a very powerful pick. I'd say she's in the top tier for supports, but I don't think she's top tier for all of the champions in the game anymore, and there are higher ban priorities at the moment. Jarvan is interesting. This could be a top lane Jarvan or jungle. There's still a lot of flexibility here. We could see a Galio mid top lane Jarvan, and then a jungle pick yet to come as we get into the next 4 bans that are going to be coming our way soon.
Absolutely. And it looks like they are, I can't tell if they're hovering or, okay, they're banning now. Okay, I got it. It did, when they're banning the summoner spells go away too. That's unusual.
Yeah, the UI doesn't seem quite set up to handle the 5-ban draft mode yet in the client, but we'll have to make do as Gnar gets banned away. So some focus towards the top lane. Generally, in this second phase of the banning draft, you see a focus towards a particular lane from one team or the other. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see another top lane ban from the side of Delusional Esports.
Absolutely. And that might pigeonhole Dr. D-Banes into playing the Galio if he doesn't have a wide enough pool. Have to see.
It is really interesting, though, because they've already picked 2 champions that are theoretically top laners. So banning the Gnar, it does sort of make it so that they're less flexible with these picks, because you can't pick a really great top lane to go into the Fiora now. Maybe you have to send the Galio or the Jarvan into that matchup. And Ashe will be the last ban. So actually not focusing on one particular role, but just getting rid of another power pick.
Absolutely. And then we're on our very last ban. We can get back to it. I
wouldn't be surprised if this were mid lane focused.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I'm having a difficulty kind of predicting where these go because it's so unusual. But it's going to be a Twitch.
Yeah, and these teams, as unfamiliar as we are with them, they are probably unfamiliar with each other, which is why we're seeing so many power bans and power picks being taken out of the equation. A lot of very meta champions are on these ban lists. Things like Talia, Lee Sin, Caitlyn, Ashe, all of these champions are frequently picked nowadays. And Varus is kind of the last strong T180 carry that made it through. So I like that immediate pick from Delusional Esports.
Absolutely. So that does mean we do need to see a marksman, and could be a mid or top laner or jungler. It just depends on what they want for their last pick as well.
Mm-hmm. This is where they have to sort of take their amorphous, flexible team composition and actually harden it and decide where these champions are going to go in terms of lane. Basically, whatever they pick here is going to just inform the rest of this team comp. I think Orianna is really powerful here. It does mean you have to throw the Galio into a lane against Fiora, which isn't so great, but maybe it's worth it just for the synergy. Orianna, Galio, and Jarvan is amazing, but it looks like they're going with the top laner. That's a Galio mid and a Jarvan jungle.
Absolutely, and that is going to be definitely be an Alawi top. We don't see a ton of Alawi anymore. The last major player who played it was Bloodbath and Beyond, but can definitely deal with a Fiora in terms of there's just no way the riposte works against that, except for blocking damage.
It is a highly volatile lane as well. Like, basically, if one of these
Heimerdinger.
Is this a proxy pick?
It could be a proxy pick.
He did receive some pretty significant changes, arguably buffs, recently. to the way that his tournament aggro not his tournament, sorry, his turret aggro works. I see a T word on the screen and I just go right for it. No. So if this isn't a proxy pick and this is the Heimerdinger mid, is also really good for matching Galio's push. That's one of the things that Galio is really strong at with Winds of War. If you just aim that towards the caster minions, you basically one-shot them after you get 2 or 3 points into Winds of War, and it's even just another Doran's Ring. And a lot of laners can't deal with that consistent push, but Heimerdinger certainly can. This is an interesting matchup, and it doesn't look like it's a proxy pick because we're timing out through the loadout countdown. So
that's one thing.
We're going to see a Heimerdinger in mid lane. I was talking about top, but I got entirely distracted. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. And wow, it's a really heavy melee matchup versus really heavy range matchup.
You still with me, Effect?
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello, hello. Testing. Can you hear me now?
Can indeed.
Okay, that was weird. For some reason, you stopped hearing me. Odd.
That is rather weird. We've got a 3-minute spectator delay though, so hopefully we'll be able to hear each other once we get onto the Rift. But we're gonna have to wait a few minutes till we get there.
So on that note, we're gonna be entering a little commercial break, and as soon as we're on the Rift, we'll be right back, folks. So do not go anywhere.
Can't look you in the face. I don't wanna have to lie. I wanted this love to survive. Now when I look in your I feel paralyzed. Now I know it's over. I see you passing by, hand in hand, with your perfect light. My body, a ghost town, feels like someone cut out my tongue. I didn't know my heart could die this young. Oh, now when I look in your eyes, I feel paralyzed.
And here we are on to the Rift. We should be getting started just any moment once all the players get warped on. Uh-oh, somebody's at my door. Give me a minute. I'll be right back.
It's okay, Effect. While he goes to the door, I will keep you all entertained. Yes, hello, welcome everybody to the Rift for our first streamed game of the night. It is going to be between 5-0 and Delusional Esports. For those of you just joining us, 5-0 is on the blue side and Delusional is on the red, and we've got an exciting pick in the form of Rough Beans' Heimerdinger. At least I am excited for it. Heimerdinger has seen some pretty significant changes recently. For anybody who's been keeping up with that, it's mainly in the way that his turret aggro works. His lasers need some encouragement to fire now. However, he's still very good at what he does. He's still got all the same sort of strengths and weaknesses. He's just kind of been accentuated in those directions. He's very, very good at wave clear, very, very punishing to melee champions who dive in to try and prevent him from clearing waves and try and break the siege, and very, very weak if he's caught out of position without his fortifications up. So that's probably going to be the solution that Team 5-0 look to use into this pick. And we'll see how well it works out for Rough Beans, who's even gone to the teleport pick to just keep this pressure up in mid lane. Digital Monster going to be clearing 2 of those turrets away. Winds of War, a pretty useful pick for that. Useful tool for that, rather. Carnage will be starting over at his blue buff, while Pulsified on the Jarvan jungle, which we don't see too often nowadays, will be starting at his red, both getting assistance from the bot and duo lane. And actually, we're going to talk about this Jarvan just a little bit more. We have seen Jarvan more and more of late, but it's been up in the top lane, where he's been able to take advantage of his huge early game damage, just the base damage, as well as actually quite good scaling, to snowball early leads, because you get much more gold in a lane than you do in the jungle. You get much more levels, in fact, as well, and you're able to sort of scale into that early game much, much more quickly, which is not going to happen as easily for Pulsified, so don't expect the sort of cataclysmic Jarvan ultis that you may have seen in the LCS earlier from Jarvan top laners, as coming from the jungle, he's going to have a bit of a slower start, unless he gets really, really out of control. But Cuddlebun and Dr. D-Beans are going at it in the top lane, as down in bottom lane is a level 2 lead for Fox and Banana. That's going to be pushing Fuel FDW back, as he takes another auto on the way out, and just drops below 100 hit points, unfortunate for the Nami. That's what a early level 2 can do. That's why you see almost every duo lane shove that first wave as hard as they can to try and get it. Other than that, relatively quiet across the Rift, but already a small gold lead developing for Delusional Esports as the Aqua Prison just about whips. And I've got eyes mainly on this mid lane, not just for the Heimerdinger, but also for the Galio, who has seen quite a bit of play since his rework. As I said in draft, is slated for some nerfs soon, and I think there's a lot of people relieved to hear that. Galio has been crushing it on the Rift of late, it being the skulls of his foes. And also the ground with a lot of his animations. In due part to the fact that he has a kit which is incredibly good at 1v1 dueling. He's got enough burst damage and CC to hold his own in the lane, as well as clear with Winds of War. He's got so much packed into these few basic abilities, but then on top of that, he's got global presence with an ulti that can stretch halfway across the map by rank 3. It's like Twisted Fate if Twisted Fate didn't have the disadvantage of being a bad laner post 6, because while Galio, yes, doesn't have an ultimate that he can use straight up in 1v1, there's the polymorph onto Grimace, as actually Fox has to flash away, Pulsified in the bottom. Here's that early Jarvan talking about. However, the Flag and Drag does not land the knockup. Going to turn for a bit of damage onto Banana, but that seems to be about it for that gank. Digital Monster flashing away as well. And some attempts at drawing first blood come up sour for both teams. There's the second attempt at the Flag and Drag, and Banana will back away. And Pulsified, I imagine, will leave this lane, his spear, a little bit wilted with his failed gank attempts. Oh, not failed. There's the knockup. Fox doesn't have summoners. 2-man bubble. Beautifully done by the Nami. Fox now exhausted on his way out. Flashes the mastery as he goes down for first blood. Grimace is my dad. Trying to continue this chase as I'm the Banana. Just about outranges the spear that would have poked a hole in his shield. But still, first blood. Going over to 5-0. who are something of the underdog in this game, something of the underdog in the series as a whole. They beat out, I believe, the 3rd or 2nd seed?
4th seed.
To get to this position. 4th seed. Thank you,
I have
Effect.
returned.
And they are the 13th seed, so 5-0 even holding their own, getting this first blood, and laning pretty well across the board. Maybe except for mid lane, where Digital Monster is getting shoved in pretty continually. Looks pretty good for them.
Absolutely. And what did I miss? Obviously, we just got first blood, and I just got here.
Yeah, lots and lots of action on the bottom side. I think there was the first triple gank that I've seen in a long time from Pulsified. Came in for a gank. Fox and the Banana did a great job of avoiding it. He stuck around in the lane, tried to gank again. Fox and Banana did a great job of avoiding it. And then they wanted to taunt the Jarvan a little bit. They walked up a bit too close while he was basing, and he landed the knock up into a double bubble from Nami. So
Like, surely he won't gank a 3rd time in a row.
Well, he wasn't going to, is the thing. He was basing, and they walked up to him to land some harass or cancel his base, try and make him waste even more time. Not necessarily a bad idea, but the Varus didn't have any summoners at that point, and that's an easy flag and drag combo to land.
Absolutely. Alrighty, where are we at for the rest of the lanes here? Definitely, we see Digital Monster having a bit of a struggle. That's not unexpected.
Yeah.
It is a Heimerdinger versus a melee matchup.
The interesting thing, though, is that I expected the struggle to come from Rough Beans constantly shoving in and Digital Monster maybe just having a tough time last hitting under turret, but the lane has actually been handled beautifully by this Heimerdinger pick. He's been able to harass Digital Monster away from the lane without shoving it too terribly hard. And so, as such, isn't in a very dangerous and easily gankable position, and still has a level in CS lead. Well, not a level lead anymore, Digital Monster just broke level 6, but you get my point. Still has a significant lead while also being in a safe position.
Absolutely. And here comes a gank, possibly.
Caliban doesn't seem to be in much of a safe position, but he does manage to avoid all the initial damage from Dr. D. Baines, as Caliban is going to turn back around with the grand challenge, flash away from the Alawi, Pulsified continuing to fight, but I don't think he has this 1v1 in him, and he realizes that on the way out, but Caliban has the flash, and D. Baines was a little too close. That's a kill going back to Delusional Esports.
Absolutely. Slight error by D. Baines getting just too close. If Pulsified could get level 6 here, he could probably kill Cuddlebuns with it, because he has no mana, but Cuddlebuns probably realizes that and sees that. He's just going to go ahead and head back.
Yeah, no reason for him to stick around. This Digital Monster will kindly inform Rough Beans that there's a ward in that bush. He'll back away. Heimerdinger not really well known for his ability to gank lanes, but teleports certainly help that. There's the bubble behind Fox as a teleport comes in behind Grimace. Fox getting chunked down. There's the taunt, and Digital Monster claims his first kill. There's Cuddlebun, though, teleporting in onto Fuel for the win. As Grimace flashes away and manages to avoid the collateral damage with it. D-Bane's now on the bottom side. He teleported in as well. It's just a party down in the bot lane, but D-Bane's gets polymorph. He can't land the autos. He can't get the heal, and Rough Beans has set up camp. These turrets are doing work. It's a double kill for the Heimer, and one going to Fiora. You can't fight that long against a Heimer team.
He slowly whittled them down and managed to pick up a nice kill as Dr. Baines is trying to retreat there. That was
such a well-timed polymorph as well.
It was a 4v5. They didn't have
Alawi
there.
just got murdered. Oh, Grimace. Respect the turrets, Grimace.
Rough Bane's getting a nice strong start with a 2-0 and 1. Though Digital Monster also picking up 2 kills in that mess. He's got that.
Yeah, and that'll certainly help him come out of the hole that he's been dug into mid lane, but I think the saddest story coming out of that particular skirmish is that Dr. D-Baines burned the teleport. He burned his flash. He used everything getting down there, and he didn't get anything out of it. I don't think he even got an assist. No, he did, because that earlier assist can't be off anything but that fight. So he got 1 assist for all of his efforts, whereas Fiora picked up another kill, and of course the 2 assists off the Heimer. So Cuddlebun is just going to be massive in this top lane. I said in draft, before I got distracted by the Heimer pick, that this is going to be a highly volatile matchup because they're both high damage, low CC melee characters. Like, they don't really have utility in either of those kits. So it's just going to come down to who has more damage to win the fights. Like, their game plan in a 1v1 is on both sides very binary. I hit you, you hit me, whoever has more damage will probably win. And right now, Fiora decidedly has more
Absolutely. The Tiamat and already has the Ninja Tappy as well, so he's going to be able to sustain or resist more damage. We see Baines is working towards it, but he doesn't have. He only has a Phage for damage.
And that's not to say there's absolutely no way to outplay in this 1v1. There's a small window of invulnerability, for instance, in Test of Faith, Alawi's ulti. And Repost is going to play a huge role. If Cuttlebun can block like a Test of Faith ulti landing on him with a Repost, that's just disgusting. But those are very small opportunities. Those are very limited opportunities, and they're only going to come into play if there's a big explosive fight. Cuttlebun can just keep shoving in the wave and keep zoning D-Bane's back, slowly whittling them down. He doesn't really need to take a big fight.
Absolutely, we are see. And Baines' sustain is completely limited to him, either the potions or hello.
Oh no! Galio ulti doesn't. I mean, Galio dash doesn't work into Jarvan ult. You can't do that. He still gets the shutdown off this ignite, but it's a double kill for Heimer on the way out. Justice Punch does not go over terrain.
That's good to know because I wasn't actually aware of that.
Yeah, you can't. You specifically cannot do that. That is so unfortunate. That would have been a dead Heimer so quickly, but they trade back badly. There's the Hugify on the Carnage. Grimace is my dad trying his best to kite back, doing a great job of it, but Carnage just has more support from that Lulu than Grimace had from the Nami. On top of that, Grimace not really as itemized as this Graves is for an early skirmish. Caulfield's Warhammer being a much more effective item in the first 10 minutes of the game than a recurve bow is.
Absolutely. You see Grimace is slowly working on that Blade of the Ruined King. So does Varish for that matter, going for the attack speed oriented build over the more lethality build. So lethality has been nerfed.
Yep. Lethality has long since gone the way of the setting sun. It is no longer with us. I mean, you still build a little bit of armor pen now and again, but you no longer just stack lethality items and have a build, which I'm appreciative for. That wasn't very interesting or creative.
Baines is just not having a good time for he's already out of mana. Oh boy.
And here's the dive from Cuttlebun as he pops the ulti. There's a second vital down. He just needs to land the other two, but beautiful flash from Dr. D-Banes. He's doing his best. He nearly gets the kill back,
so
but Cuttlebun is on a killing spree. This VR is just way too far ahead. I mean, if you look at that fight, objectively, he tanked 4 turret shots while not landing any autos because of that flash. It was beautifully done by D-Banes, but it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, he got a tiny heal, but just wasn't enough. He needed one more auto attack. That's unfortunate. No. D-Banes has his Kindle Gem and has a Ninja Tabi working on that Black Cleaver. Hopefully that should help some. But Cuttlebun is now at the exact same items plus more.
Looking for the Idol of Durand's. Digital Monster finds at least a little bit of damage.
Looks like we're doing pretty significant damage, that's for sure.
Yeah. Galio has some pretty crazy base damage on Winds of War. As you can see, he's not even built any damage, really. Alright, there's the ulti. This is the combo you want to do. That goes over walls. Digital Monster slams in for a kill. But there is a teleport coming from the top side. There's the Justice Punch, not reposted. Cuttlebun didn't have vision. Flash away in return. Every summoner being burned here. And it's going to be just one kill when the dust settles, going over to 5-0.
The 5-0 is glad to take whatever they can, because they are a little behind right now. But that was going to be Pulsified getting revenge on Rough Beans. And Digital...
Yeah, Galio Jarvan is a great combo. You gotta use the right mobility skill.
Cuttlebun's taking a tiny bit of poke, but nothing significant.
And trust me, I speak from painful personal experience in this realm. I'm not just trying to beat on Digital Monster here. I have done the same exact thing. It feels so bad to just punch your way into a wall. It's very strange. It's one of the few mobility skills in the game that doesn't actually go over terrain. That and Gnar on his E, which I'm not remembering the name of at the moment.
Dane's Tumble, but that's a range issue more than anything. So I think it can go over Jarvan walls.
There's the Test of Faith. D-Bane's going to turn around with some decent damage onto the shadowy clone there, but Rough Beans is visiting the top side, and I believe D-Bane's kind of has to concede this, but it does mean that both solo laners are top side while a dragon take is underway. Jarvan's farming wolves, though. Probably not where he needs to be right now. Like, you wanna either be helping top to prevent this push to get maybe the Rift Herald, something like that, or you want to be down at the Dragon camp. Now is not really the time to be farming smaller camps in the jungle, but there's the ulti onto D-Banes. Eats all the rockets and gets out okay.
So he's definitely going to be forced to back there. Very unfortunate. He technically won the skirmish against Cuttlebun. He managed to get grab the spirit and do some good damage. So,
which is certainly encouraging for D-Banes, as Pulsified now is joining him up topside to try and prevent this push. But I feel like too many of the plays that 5-0 are making now are reactive. Aside from their attempted ganks mid lane in the last few minutes, they've not really made any decisions of their own. We're just seeing prevention. We're seeing them trying to stop pushes. They're not ever the ones taking control of the game, which is a difficult position to be in. Beautiful stun there, but Justice Punch doesn't land. Idol Durand will channel, even as a cupcake. Digital Monster cannot be stopped. And it looks like he can just walk out of this unless that piercing arrow chunks. There's a flash forward from Fox. He's going for one more auto. He finds it. And the Nami has to flash.
that was unfortunate.
Grimace now dashing forward. There's no Lulu ulti. There's no flash, but there is a heal. Culling comes down. Banana gonna body block most of it, but here's Jarvan from the side. The knockup doesn't land, but Fox still gets chunked, and Pulsified has the kill. There's the ulti onto 2, but he gets blown to bits before he has a chance to do much with it. And Rough Beans flashing forward. He has some rockets to share. A lot of them. But Grimace will flash away. He's not interested in playing any Heimerdinger games today. However, Fiora split push.
Absolutely. Oh my. The turret is already gone. It's interesting that Idol Durand keeps channeling even after being silenced, essentially.
Yeah, it's actually impossible to interrupt. Yeah. Idol Durand will channel until Galio lets go of the button. He might not be able to let go of the button while silenced, though. I don't know about that. That would be interesting. It might just like auto channel until the end of the cast in that situation. I'd have to go into practice mode and do some testing.
Absolutely. Definitely interesting to think about. Learning all kinds of new things with Galio, oh my.
Oh, Cuttlebun, he has so much patience. He could have jumped on fuel when he was on the blast cone, but he held back a little bit, long enough to realize that Pulsified was waiting in the wings. And he's just going to walk his way out here. I don't think Pulsified can take this 1v1.
No, not at all.
But Fiora's too scared of it not being a 1v1. Dr. D-Bane still valiantly holding on to this top turret, and we have a pause.
Where are we at with this? Let's take this opportunity to take a look at everything as a whole.
One of the problems that I see developing for 5-0, and we've already saw with the Fiora down bot lane, is that they're up against an almost unbeatable split push on the enemy team. Unbeatable because their composition is actually relatively low wave clear. They've basically got Culling and Winds of War, and that's it. And they don't have great engage either. They have Jarvan and Galio, and again, that's it. They don't really have great hard CC engage, and they don't have great wave clear, so they don't have a good answer to the enemy team just constantly pushing all the lanes. I mean, they've got double teleport, Heimerdinger, Fiora. They can be everywhere at once. So this is going to be very, very difficult, and we're already seeing that form. There's a 3-0 turret lead. There's 2 turrets down on the bottom side.
Absolutely. And looking at items, just there's huge lead currently for Delusional, and almost everywhere. Bot lane's not too bad. Grimace is behind in CS.
You've got to think about what this composition could have looked like with a different top laner, you know, because they had this great start to their draft where they were able to shuffle around the Galio and the Jarvan between the solo lanes and stuff, and they could have had a Jarvan top, or they could have had a Galio top in this game. Galio top I wouldn't have recommended into Fiora, but maybe Jarvan does okay there. And then you're freed up to pick like a Wombo combo mid lane. Somebody like an Orianna who can provide wave clear, who can follow up on the Jarvan engage, who solves all your problems, basically. instead of this Alawi who's really hit or miss. Like, yes, if Dr. G-Banes had done amazingly well in this lane, if he had been the one in the Fiora's position, if he had been the one who's 3-0 right now, this game would be basically over. Because you can't really contest that sort of Alawi. But that's a huge gamble to take when you can just grab a mid laner or a top laner with a lot more utility. Go Nautilus, go Orianna, something
Absolutely.
like that.
I definitely would prefer to see the Orianna a little bit. But I guess they knew what they wanted to do, but it's just so far not working out quite as they planned, I imagined. D-Bane's still getting kind of abused.
Banana does not like blast cones, it seems. Going for a bit of deep vision there as well. And Richard will only be with us for another minute, so both teams seem potentially interested in dueling around this objective.
And we're seeing a Heimerdinger split push in the bottom side. Rough Beans
Yeah.
taking advantage of this push card.
And I think pretty much every time we're going to see a split push somewhere. But there's the engage with the Galio Jarvan combo, the knockup onto Carnage. They've got some heal in the form of Lulu, but it doesn't seem to be enough. Digital Monster brings one down. Heimer is just going to return to his split, though. Doesn't have teleport to join the fight, so keep your eyes bot. There will be a Heimer reaching the inhibitor turret eventually, but it is an inhibitor turret. It'll take him a little while.
They're opting to not. Looks like they wanted Grimace wanted to do Rift Turtle, but the rest of the team seems to have disagreed and wanted mid turret instead.
I think maybe they should have gone for this. We'll see whether or not they're able to safely take this mid turret. I don't think they won that fight so hard that they can just push this with no risk. As Cuddlebun is flanking from behind, this fight could go really south, and the whole time there's a Heimerdinger bot.
Oh my.
D-Banes is basing. I don't know if Alawi can really deal with this, but we'll see.
Wish I could see the turret's health. There it is. Oh my.
Yeah, Heimer drops the ult. Like, he will shred turrets when he gets to them with that mega turret of his own. So I think going for Rift Herald was the right call there. You're already at it. You do it very, very quickly, and then you're able to use that then to take a turret later. A bit of misunderstanding, perhaps, of their reach on the side of 5-0.
Absolutely. Bit of miscommunication as well. They we did see Pulsified also kind of split up the team. That looked like he was near Rift Herald.
Banana's dead here. Yeah. There's not much he could do. He was overextending to clear some vision, and once that first CC lands, they've got a decent CC chain, but I don't know if there's really much that'll happen off that kill. We'll see.
Absolutely. The kills are even here, but there's still an 8k gold lead almost, and that's not insignificant at 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's because the kill numbers at the moment don't really matter. It's these turrets that are backbreaking for 5-0, and they're almost 5-0 down in turrets, which is not, I'm sure, what they planned for with their namesake.
And then there is also a 50 CS difference in both mid and bottom, which is also.
Mountain Drake is just kicking them while they're down too, because this is even more split pushing pressure. Now you don't just have to worry about a Fiora or a Heimer in the side lane. You have to worry about a Fiora or a Heimer in the side lane who's doing true damage to your objectives. And, well, you have to worry about it right now. Cuddlebun is on the turret.
And the turret's dead. Got the Black Cleaver
no, they are
on the
5-0
Hydra.
back.
So his damage is going to keep going up, and he'll murder turrets, but they don't even exist.
I mean, Baron is even a realistic objective here. They've got so much consistent damage to the Fiora Heimer. They can shred this thing really fast. And so it's less that we see... Pardon me. It's less that we see delusional esports actually go for the Baron, and more that 5-0 just have to constantly respect it and constantly be coming this way to get vision. Or else there's a real possibility with two Mountain Drakes that delusional just sneak it away in the dark of night.
Both teams are looking like they want to fight here, but...
This is actually an ideal fight if they can pick it and if they can win it, because there is no split push threat right now, but Heimerdinger's in the team fight, and that is arguably perhaps even worse. Dr. D-Banes does bring down the enemy support as Graves falls as well. It was a closer fight than I anticipated, but still most of the blood is shed on 5-0's side.
Absolutely. So 3 for 2, so that's better than expected, I imagine.
But all of the 3 members remaining are very good at pushing turrets, and so a second turret in the mid lane will fall, and the gold gap will increase. And a flash forward from Cuddlebun. He's going for the dive onto Grimace. The riposte slow doesn't land, or it did, but He didn't have enough confidence after it to keep going.
And wisely deciding probably not to take a dive too deep under the turret at less than half health.
Yeah, I mean, this is honestly something of a hard game to watch because it feels like just such a foregone conclusion at this point. Just looking across the compositions, looking at the position the game is in right now, I don't really see much of a way back for 5-0 into this match. Heimerdinger is so oppressive as a champion. You can call him cheesy, you can call him any number of even worse names than that, but what he does very well. And what he's doing in this game is something that the enemy team's comp is just not prepared to deal with.
Absolutely. Well, they are going to grab the River Scare for themselves.
Yeah. He's small breath of fresh air because it does mean that there's uncontestable vision on the Baron now, which is very nice.
And
but Rough Beans now with teleport up is likely just going to set himself up in a side lane, or maybe allow Cuddlebun to do that. We'll see. A lot of flexibility.
they could try to 1-3-1. That might be a little risky. They do have the Varus ultimate to stall out any pushes, but they're going to 2v1 Cuddlebun.
Alright, here's the attempt to engage onto the split push. That is one option for dealing with these splits, but Pulsified gets shredded. Cuddlebun is a threat in a 2v1. He's so difficult to push back, and now they've taken too much time here. The jungler is bot side. That is the call to go for Baron immediately.
Absolutely.
Digital Monster, I don't think he can handle this. There's the riposte on the taunt. The knockup lands, but Cuddle much more sustained in this matchup, and the vitals mean he chunks hard. Not only that, but Baron goes down on the top side.
And Cuddlebun making his way towards that inhibitor, and that is just not going to live very long. D-Bane's here to try and stop him.
D-Banes is here. He's looking for a rematch. He's saying, remember 30 minutes ago, it's not even 30 minutes into the game, remember 20 minutes ago when I could fight you, but Cuddlebun doesn't want to fight no more. Beautiful parry, by the way, on that Nami ulti. Stuns up D-Banes and gets out.
Absolutely, and while that's happening, the rest of Delusional is making their way topside. They've already taken a turret, and now they're working on the inhibitor turret.
5-0 refused to leave this game without taking at least one turret. They have sent Jarvan mid to take one turret of their own this match. It's not a perfectly clean objective game, but it's pretty damn close, and it's pretty damn bad for 5-0.
Absolutely, there are not enough options. It's just too big of a gold lead. 12k at the 26-minute mark is huge.
Yeah, and again, their draft just doesn't leave them a way out of this problem. Rough Beans being highly efficient, leashing Gromp over while doing the blue buff, losing a bit of efficiency when the Gromp just no longer cares about him and walks away. I hate it when even frogs won't give me the time of day.
Even giant man-eating frogs.
Never come across one before, but I imagine it would be disappointing nonetheless.
Cuddlebun.
D-Bane's chasing back Cuddlebun.
D-Banes is definitely more durable now. He has the Spirit Visions, he has a Black Cleaver. So he can contribute in team fights. If they could find a way to get them all clumped in the jungle, maybe Test of Faith could win a team fight.
But when and why is that going to happen?
I
mean, both teleports are still up.
And I don't
solo
see
lanes.
don't see Delusional saying, "Hey, let's go into the jungle for no reason."
Yeah, there's just absolutely no reason to ever give 5-0 the opportunity to come back in this game. They can just keep splitting in onto these now unprotected inhibitors.
Absolutely.
And be uncontestable in doing so. It would take like 3 or 4 serious mechanical misplays in a row for Cuddlebun to go down to D-Banes. And we'll see whether or not that happens, as he's now taking the 1v1, nearly bringing down D-Banes as he does so. 3 members coming to stop him. The riposte once again landing beautifully, dodging away from the Aqua Prison. Nobody can stop this Fiora. He's walking through turrets on his way out. He gets to the Lulu. He gets the ulti. He gets the heals and the shields. Finally, a shutdown. But meanwhile, Rough Beans is shoving in topside. He's on Nexus turrets. He's taken an inhibitor. The quiet Heimerdinger in the background of this game has done as much damage as anything else. And this is going to be GG. Graves falls, but it's a small light at the end of a very, very dim and dark tunnel.
Actually, well, they did manage to make sure that Cuddlebun also had at least one death this game. So
Yeah, I suppose.
Small
They
victories. Small
they
victories.
didn't give the Fiora a perfect game, and they didn't give them a perfect objective game either. They took one turret back. But that is nigh on the smallest of victories.
But a valiant 10 by 5-0. And with that, we'll be moving on. Let me take a quick look at the bracket. Just give me a moment, folks. Because this is our quarterfinal match, and we'll be moving into the semifinals very shortly.
Yeah, and I do want to repeat what you just said, that it was a really valiant attempt by 5-0. Let's not forget going into this game that 5-0 looked competitive for the early part of it, and that they made their way here in the first place is actually somewhat impressive. They beat out the 4th seed to get to this quarterfinal. They were the 13th seed. This is a fresh team to Reverie. We've never even seen these guys before. I would love to see them back here on the Rift because they did perform well. I think just some issues with their draft and maybe not quite understanding exactly what their win conditions were early enough in the game led to something of a shutout. But this game could have ended very differently with just one different champion choice or a few different moves around maybe that Rift Herald fight. So despite the fact that it looks like they lost in a pretty crushing defeat, it's really just the result of a few very, very key mistakes.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll be moving on to the semifinals. We'll be starting shortly once everybody's in the lobby, and we'll see you guys when we're in Champion Selects. So do not go anywhere, folks. And welcome back, folks. We are in the semi-finals between Last Hope and Delusional Esports. We saw Delusional just win off in their quarterfinal match against 5-0, and they did quite well for themselves. Let's see if they can have a repeat.
It's the fancy new 10-band system. I'm excited. We've seen it once tonight. I'm always excited to see it again tonight. I don't know. I really like it. It promotes a lot more diversity in solo lanes, and because you can like hone in on a role, because you can squeeze a player out of the meta champions in a specific role, we get to see fancy champions in mid lane like Heimerdinger. Or maybe that was just Rough Beans being something of a wild cannon. I don't know. I'm excited to see what happens. But Katarina and Diana are two very odd choices.
Absolutely. That is a lot of unusual picks. That's for Camille. Yeah. Not surprised at. I hate playing against Camille, so I'm not surprised other people also hate playing against Camille.
And Zach made it through, so it's going to be the first pick. You see a lot of Zach nowadays. Let's bounce an incredibly powerful tool. His engage range is just disgustingly far, and he can have an impact at all points in the game. His early game ganking is really insane. His late game team fighting is really strong.
Absolutely.
So Ivan will be the answering jungle, and Lulu in the support
role.
I
really like how they're doing the 5-band system here, where it's not 5 bands right at the start of the game. So that still lets you pick in either specific picks that you want or power picks that remain open.
Well, to be fair, it is 5 bands right at the start of the game if you're one of us regular plebeian players who has to play in ranked or draft. This is only for tournament code draft that you get the fancy tournament draft system. They deemed it too lengthy a process for ranked games.
It does make sense for a tournament setting because you can actually see the other players, so you know who you're playing against, so you can research them and stuff like that. So it does make sense in that sense.
Yeah. It adds a lot more depth to the draft, which Riot argues isn't necessary in ranked solo queue because there isn't as much depth in the game mode to begin with. I'm not on the same side of the fence as them with that, but that is an argument for a different time. Talia will be locked in alongside Twitch, so we've already got some pretty dang powerful picks from Last Hope playing to the meta so far.
Absolutely. Now, what is Rough Beans going to pick? He played Heimer last time, and he's going to hover on the Kassadin. He's only got a couple seconds to switch.
Kassadin has been rising to some degree of prominence recently. There's a lot of players who've been playing him with Deathfire Touch instead of Storm Raider Surge or Thunderlords, and maxing that Q first, as you usually do, and with Deathfire's Touch, you can actually get some decent harass off in the lane after you get to level 5 or so when you have a few points in your Q. Still, though, I imagine he's not going to have a great time against Talia, even just because of wave clear. Talia has 3 different area of effect skills in her basic kit. She can shove a lane up much, much more effectively than Kassadin can answer that shove.
Absolutely. And now we're on our next rotation of bands. It's going to be Shen and Kennen. What is our... That's right, because we haven't seen top lane picks just yet.
Mm-hmm. So both teams might be sort of on the same track banning out top laners here, but Karma will be taking away a really solid ban when you already have either Karma or Lulu, because a lot of teams will want one or the other if they're going to be playing a harassy aggressive lane. And Galio taken out of the picture, another power pick. So top lane and support roles getting pinched a little in the second part of the draft.
Absolutely. So we'll probably see, I'm imagining a Nami support as an answer to Lulu. That just seems to be super common. And
it's also possible to go a different direction and go for like some sort of harder engage on your support, because there are now 4 squishy champions on the enemy team. If you pick a Thresh and you land a hook onto pretty much anybody here, they might just be dead off the back of that. Now, some of them are difficult to land hooks on. Kassadin probably shouldn't be Thresh hooked at any point, but it's a consideration to go for that aggressive support.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a Gragas. Okay, so that's going to be a top lane Gragas most likely. And a Rakan.
Mm-hmm. And Rakan. Yeah, that is actually nicely bridging the gap between the two. Rakan has sustained through shields and heals in the laning phase to deal with Lulu's poke and harass, but he's also really, really good at hard engaging onto an immobile carry like Ashe. If you've been watching the LCS recently, you know that Rakan's engage range is disgustingly large. It's larger with Xayah because his battle dance has a longer range. He's able to get to Xayah from further away and thus use Xayah as sort of an engagement point. But even just with Twitch, with an AD carry that isn't his birdie lover, Rakan is still perfectly capable of making 1,000+ range engages, talking about like just in-game distance markers.
Absolutely. And with that, we're going to see a Jarvan top laner, a bit different from the
And
Fiora.
Jarvan will be the last pick to round this out, going into the Gragas top lane. Jarvan top is something I anticipated last game. We didn't get to see it as he went into the jungle, and I'm excited to see it this time around. You don't see, for a long time, Jarvan top was dead to the meta and gone, presumably forever. But I'm glad to see him surging back from the ashes once more, because this is a very, very fun and explosive champion
Absolutely.
to watch.
Speaking of explosive, both teams having some decent engage, a little bit more on the side of Last Hope. I got their name for a second. I had to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there is definitely some pick potential from oh boy, I've forgotten their name now. Delusional Esports.
Delusional, yes. I would say that pick potential is pretty much all that Delusional Esports have to rely on this game.
Absolutely.
Now, it's not necessarily a knock at their draft. They've picked very well into it. They've got Ashe as the AD carry to pick people off, Kassadin and Jarvan highly mobile and able to close large gaps and get to the backline and follow up on an Ashe arrow. So they've got a composition that is looking to snipe someone and murder them instantly. But if that doesn't work out, they find themselves in a team fight against a Zac, Talia, Rakan, and Gragas, not to mention Twitch's AoE damage. So basically, these fights have to be really quick, or Last Hope is almost going to win by default with their composition.
Absolutely. And on that note, we have entered our spectator delay. We've got about 2 minutes left on the clock, and we'll be back as soon as we're on the Rift. So do not go anywhere, folks.
Familiar faces prolong the embraces. We were always once for the breakaway, but we're nearing chances to wake the day. They're calling you over, the methods are bolder. We're lost in the time now, reminding ourselves how we were always once for the breakaway, but we're nearing chances to wake the day.
And we're back onto the Rift for Last Hope versus Delusional Esports. This is the semi-final, first of the night, and here we go. Let's make sure everything set properly.
Last Hope will be on the blue side for this match. Apologies, I was saying this as Effect was starting up, but I don't think my mic was up. And on the red side will be Delusional Esports. And a little bit of background on these teams, or one of these teams. Delusional Esports is new to our Rift. We've not seen these players before, so there's a lot of potentialities that could occur that we don't have any insight into going into this match. However, Last Hope are not new. They were here for our last Rift Cup, actually, for last month's Ultimate Grand end of month tournament, which all of these weekly Saturday tournaments lead up to, by the way. And I believe they took home the whole thing. Did they not?
I was not there for that one, so I don't.
Oh no, you weren't. Effect wasn't around. Yeah, Last Hope is actually they may have took on the whole thing. I think they might have taken second or first. I'm pretty sure first, though, if memory serves. And so this is one of the better teams that shows up to Reverie regularly. Now, of course, Reverie doesn't have the same sort of tournament setup that a lot of other organizations do. Our teams are here on a per week, per month basis, and they are free to come and go as they please. And as such, we get a lot of new blood all the time, but we do have some veteran teams that keep coming back. We like to think it's for our good personalities, but it's probably just for the prize money and t-shirts. Last Hope is one of these recurring teams. They've been here twice now for our monthly and Saturday tournaments, and they always perform consistently. They've got some high-level players, some names you might even recognize on their roster in the form of Painless or Cavelli, players that we've seen before in the amateur scene. And so this is going to be quite a test for the newcomers here going into this match against the first seed, against the team expected to take on the tournament.
Absolutely, and Rough Bean's already getting poked out of it, but he is returning with some Q.
Yeah, though Wasori realizing he's in the middle of a wave. Kassadin has one ranged ability and then nothing after that. Just tanks the Q and keeps walking forward and autoing. Comes out on top in the trade there. And that's what's the first few minutes of this lane against Kassadin going to look like. Once we get past maybe level 6 or so, around that time, and there's a few levels in Rough Bean's Q, and he has his ultimate available, that's when the lane takes a whole different form. It's just a matter for this Kassadin player of getting there.
And there's some severe... Oh, hello.
Yeah, the good Pain was looking for the re-engage, but Fox was clever enough to avoid it, and Cavelli taking a big chunk of damage into Cuttlebone.
Okay, just a second.
Of course. But yeah, I want to keep an eye towards this top lane as much as anything else in this game. Cuttlebun is picking a fan favorite of mine, at the very least, in the form of Jarvan Lane. I absolutely love this champion in this role because he gets so very much damage in the first 15-20 minutes of the game with the solo XP and the solo gold that you get coming out of top lane, or even mid. You see that time and again. And he does well into so many matchups. I'm actually surprised that it took this long for Jarvan top to become something of a meta pick, and it's still just on the rise this last week or so in competitive play. So I wouldn't call it meta yet so much as experimental. We're sort of getting bullied back by Carnage there, who visits the mid lane and places a little bit of a shrubbery. And so I expect this lane to be pushed forward. Carnage thrown back into the crab for a moment there. There's the ghost from Wasori, Ethug Divergent chasing afterwards, flashing on to the blast code and getting tossed over the wall by Carnage, but he's going to meet him coming the other way, and it's first blood for Wasori on the Talia. That is going to be rough for Kassadin, but Cuttlebun has roamed to the fight faster than Gragas can match. Gragas is on his way, though, as is Kassadin from the mid lane. Cuttlebun nicely sidestepping the knockup from Ethug, but he's still got his passive, and it looks like this is a favorable fight still for the side of Last Hope. Cuttlebun flashing away. Rough Beans tanking up the unraveled earth, turning around, landing the slow into all three, and he's got to make it back to the safety of his turret, so there is only one casualty, unless you count the countless summoners that went down.
Absolutely. Poor Carnage just couldn't get away. The blast cone almost went well.
Really good sidestep again from Fox. This guy is too fast on his feet. Painless can't land a knockup. Still a good trade overall. A lot of damage from Noamost because the Ashe did have to step back into Twitch's auto range. But impressive nonetheless.
Absolutely. And Rough Beans continue to get harassed hard by Wasori.
Cavelli going for the trade here with Cuttlebun. He realizes he's got the massive advantage in terms of the minion rate, and so is looking to pick a fight. Wasori now with the summoners down is the focus of Carnage, but Rough Beans is so low on health he doesn't really want to come and join this fight. Seismic Shove is going to toss the Ivern back away, and he thug over the wall! Rough Beans not anticipating a second member of Last Hope joining the fight is going to pay dearly for it.
Rough Beans is looking for opportunity to get close and dump his full combo onto Wasori, but he thugged to save the day, like Superman.
Very clean Zac combo as well, dropping the W as soon as he lands with his stretching strike. You can actually drop that while you're in the air, and there's Z-Thug coming into the top lane, demonstrating that once again. Cuttlebun tossed out of his knockup by the belly slam. Cavelli, you madman.
Cavelli once again showing how good of a top laner he is. I do actually remember seeing him on a different team, but I just can't remember which one.
That was so fast I almost didn't notice it. I had to take a moment there to think, why did Jarvan not go to his flag? It was Cavelli. He timed that body slam perfectly. And he had barely any time to do it, too, because Jarvan started right next to him. He had to do it right at the beginning of the animation. Very well done. And already a lead across almost the entirety of the map for Last Hope.
Nope. No, trying to interrupt the back there on Fox, but Fox managed to make it out just in time.
All right, back to one of our first stories of the game, though. Rough Beans has just broken that level 6 mark. He's actually not too terribly far behind. Wasori has a kill and an assist, but has built into some utility with cooldown reduction and mana regen off the Phoenix Codex and Lost Chapter, pardon me. Whereas Rough Beans just has a blasting one, has gone for as much damage as he can with his budget. So he may actually be able to take a 1v1 with this Talia, and depending on how the lane plays out over the next few minutes, I think is really going to inform this game, because this Kassadin needs to start coming back in this match for Last Hope's snowball to be stopped.
Absolutely. He doesn't have the TP, but it is still a Kassadin, so he has a decent mobility still, so he could look for opportunities to
Speaking of looking for opportunities, look at that minimap. Look down bot side. There's the Weaver's Wall, tossing Fox back and making mincemeat of the banana, which makes no sense. You don't make mincemeat of whatever. The analogy stands nonetheless, as Cavelli into the 1v1 with Cuttlebun is getting beaten back out of the lane, flashing towards the Tribush. Meanwhile, bot side, it's a 4-man shove to take that first turret. And Cavelli still hasn't been hunted down. He's deep in enemy territory now.
And they're gonna let him go.
This is a stealth operation to get out. He's basing. They don't know he's there. He's gonna make it out. He's back home safe. We brought Cavelli home.
He's the fat Martian.
Rough Beans looking for the engage, potentially on Wasori, and this is exactly what I was thinking would happen here. But Rough Beans a little low on mana and not quite high enough on damage. He's gonna have to turn back after that initial engage.
Still, decent chunk of damage there. First.
Meanwhile, though, objectives being taken, being focused. First turret is down. Ocean Drake is now being torn to shreds. And while Rough Beans has regained some control of the mid lane, he needs to get kills. He needs to snowball. He needs to roam and hard right now.
Absolutely.
Some control is not going to be enough, given how many advantages Last Hope has accrued in just the first 8 minutes.
A 4K lead doesn't sound like a lot, but at 8 minutes it is. And that is worth noting that there's just no kills yet for Delusional.
Yeah, and there's an Ocean Drake, which, I mean, you can't really measure that in gold value, but I guess you could if you wanted to do the math of Rejuve Beads and Mana Charms and all of that, but I'm not going to do that live on stream because I prefer not to make a fool out of myself. But it is sort of a even added cherry on top of that 4K gold lead, of those solo kills. And a lot of this comes down to, I want to nominate an MVP even just 9 minutes in. For the early game, Last Hope's MVP has been Deeko. This guy has been all over the map on the sack. And it's one of the reasons why you see it banned out so much. He's got so much presence in the early game, and it doesn't fall off. You know, something like Lee Sin, Jarvan, you might see those champions start to fall off later into the game. But Zac's teamfighting presence is so huge that he just transitions from being this ganking monster into a teamfighting monster. And there's the full engage from Painless as Cuttlebun is just tossed about.
They do cuddle the bun. Oh my.
Not sure what that means, but it looks like they did it pretty effectively. one way or another.
He just had no opportunity. He was CC chained and immediately eliminated because he is going for a damage build.
And it's just... Last Hope is playing a much higher stakes game. Like, the victories that are going over to Delusional Esports are things like Cassidon getting a slight CS lead. But meanwhile, Last Hope are ganking 2 members of their team, taking turrets. There is a teleport coming in here, but there's already one down. Cuttlebun is joining the team. He's going into the backlines for Noah Most, but Noah Most has every summoner up. He has 3 members to peel for him, and Cuttlebun is gone.
He did a lot of damage to Noah Most, forced the heal, forced the flash, but just wasn't enough.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what the heal and flash are for. If it takes everything Jarvan has to get to the backlines and it's those 2 summoners, and then dies for it, his job arguably wasn't done. You need to get the kill. Close is not good enough in League of Legends.
Most certainly, well, yeah, most certainly not usually.
That was quite the sentence.
English, it are hard.
Sounds like a political, I don't know, treaty. Most certainly, not definitely. But yeah, it's just, you can see where advantages might have popped up for Delirians. They've got this Cassidon and this Jarvan who are both doing okay in their lanes, but Last Hope have tunneled in onto them. They take 2 turrets top lane, and they gank Cuttlebun so many times that he's now 0-3. You saw in a few early fights against Cavelli, he was actually doing okay, but they nipped that in the bud. And you saw Rough Beans had an opening there after level 6 where he was doing okay into Wasori, but Wasori just left. He hasn't been mid lane in like the last 5 or 6 minutes. He's only here now that his whole team is, and he's pushing in onto a turret. They're playing around the strengths of their opponent in such a way as to almost make them their weaknesses.
Rough Beans slowly getting pushed in as they get the root on Noah, but there's just no one there to really follow up.
And this is the last outer turret remaining. It should be relatively easy to take. As Liquid Painless maybe looks for an engage into Rough Beans here. Does have vision over the wall, but that is a Cassidon. Kind of difficult to jump.
And he's also building Roa, so he is going to be getting some health, but he hasn't finished it just yet. Liquid Pain.
Which potentially could be pretty rough, because the Roa does delay your power spike a little bit on Cassidon, but it's kind of mandatory. You really need that item to have the survivability to actually do your job and dive into the backline. There's Rift Herald, goes over to the Zac and Talia combo. We'll see where that gets used. I imagine in the mid lane just to knock down this turret, basically guaranteed.
That would be my opinion as well. They just need to look for an opportunity here.
And Airborne actually still landed the knockup, connecting onto Cassidon despite his ulti, and there's the Let's Bounce pulling back the Lulu, who gets instantly charmed by the quickening. And Rough Beans, even if he brought down Ethug, would only have taken the passive. This is such calculated risk, very, very safe plays that are still playing on their opponent's overextension. A dive under the turret takes another 2 kills, and Rift Herald is summoned. I imagine they shoved 2 turrets
Absolutely. Here. They have 5 members, there's only Cuttlebun up, and I'm the Banana just spawning.
Unfortunate that they took the turret down in the middle of Rift Herald's charge animation. Doesn't mean that Rift Herald wasted a little bit of time, but look, it does half of this turret's health nonetheless. It doesn't matter. Rift Herald is strong.
Rift Herald might get 1 more charge off.
And they're not going to be defending it anymore, though. So it is easy prey for Cuttlebun and Banana. Really nothing threatening names. Maybe that's part of the strategy.
Absolutely, they want to feel friendly. Speaking of friendly, the next dragon is coming up soon.
And this has been almost a clinical game of League of Legends from Last Hope.
Yep, so
they've yet to give up a kill, they've yet to give up a turret, a dragon as well. And they've honestly not been playing just really overly safe to achieve that. They've been taking very calculated, very reasonable risks. They understand exactly what everything they're doing is meant to accomplish. And that's enjoyable to watch. Ethug stealing away the crap and securing the dragon for his team in just a few minutes.
Absolutely. We see all 5 members are here of Last Hope. There's only one that's not really there is Masori. He's in the mid lane, so he's close enough to help should any shenanigans happen.
Yeah, positioning Talia up a little bit because she can join in with Weaver's Wall, can cut off the enemy team. But there won't be an enemy team to cut off as they're too far back and too timid in their own jungle to contest this dragon. And at this point, I can't blame them. I don't think they really have the strength to contest.
It's kind of interesting that the level differences are not that severe. There's only a couple here and there, despite the lead in gold and kills.
It is a 10k gold lead at 15
That
minutes,
is
though.
not insignificant by any margin.
Levels aside, that's kind of disgusting. And there's a two-man knockup, followed by the quickening, or preceded by it. It's hard to tell with Rakan. And this is the death knell. I mean, they're just going to shove in onto even further and further turrets. Rough Beans is over the wall. He's looking for an opportunity to engage, but his team is just not affording him any. There's the knockup onto the Jarvan. This is the next target to bring down, the next source of damage. Looks like he'll have to burn Summoner to get away. Rough Beans pulls himself into the fight. He's welcoming him with a hug and a stretchy arm.
He's almost went down, but he, like I said, he did flash out. With the flag and drag, he's able to get enough distance to not die.
And you're seeing in this game that there's a reason Last Hope are the first seed. There's a reason they came home with the victory in our last monthly tournament. These guys play very, very clean League of Legends.
Absolutely, there's very, very few
and
errors.
They've yet to miss a beat this game. Yeah. I mean, it's difficult to do color casting. It's difficult to do analysis of a game like this because there's not much to analyze when one team is basically just not playing. It sounds harsh, but what do you do if you're Delirium Esports here?
I definitely need to... That's a very good question.
So the effect doesn't have the answer. The effect does not have the answer to that.
Well, I do, but it's not involving in the game.
They've got this composition that is centered around picks, and picks with a CK, not an X, not a Lulu top. It does have one in it. But this game has advanced, I can't even speak. This game has advanced too quickly to the point where picks are no longer really possible because the enemy team is constantly 5 men together. Everywhere they go, it's the full squad of Last Hope. Maybe Talia is half a lane away, but that's about it. And that's basically Talia being part of the fight. And there's the Weaver's Wall, not only cutting off Fox and Carnage, and leading to Fox's ultimate demise, but keeping the rest of the team from coming in to defend this turret. There's the long-range engage from E-Thug, potentially looking for a Let's Bounce, but doesn't really seem to need it. The rest of his team is able to clean up this kill onto the Lulu Forum. And there's the quick cast on the Let's Bounce. Reminiscent of the old days of Zac. Just a knock-up if you don't actually charge it. And the first inhibitor goes down at 18 minutes.
Absolutely. Cuddle Button, unfortunately, was wanting to push the lane, but they found him so quickly he couldn't get away.
And it's a teleport onto the minion. It's tanking that turret for more shots than it should be. As Rough Beans is diving into the backlines before he doesn't go down, though! He turns back around! It's still a perfect game! They're diving Nexus turrets, and they are not dying!
Nope.
Speaking of Nexus turrets, the second one is under fire. Zac passive, the closest thing the enemy team has gotten to a kill yet this game.
And I believe that's the first time his passive has been popped as well.
Yeah. And Nexus is now going to go down at below half. This is potentially the first perfect match that I've casted here at Reverie. 19-0, 16,000 gold up. Last Hope win before the 20-minute mark.
That was very unfortunate. Just a superly, amazingly well played game by Last Hope. Very, very few errors. And so, not even passive play, just super aggressive the entire game.
And definitely deserving to go to the finals, which we will be heading into as soon as we can, unless we can get into the next semifinal match. We're going to go ahead and look into that right now.
Absolutely. Just give us a moment, folks. And we're back! Combat Gaming Esports versus Gotta Win Fast. Second semifinal match, and we're in a real fight already.
You're gonna have to take up the mantle of play-by-play for just at least one fight effect. I'm still loading.
Absolutely.
I believe in you.
Alrighty, we do see Gotta Win Fast already has taken this next Infernal Drake. There's a good hook onto I'm a Babe, who is gonna be going. Oh, it wasn't I'm a Babe. Oh, I gotta see who's who. Alrighty, that is a kill.
Oh, I'm into the game. Let's just make sure we're at the same timestamp here. 11:36 as Rig 1 or
I am 1 second behind him.
Rig B1. That is a difficult name to catch, but beautiful catch by the Rakan. Norton goes and gets the kill onto Age Wizard though as Dumpa chasing into the back lines. Dark Wings for sale looking for a finish, but he just can't find it. He has to flash over the wall to get out as well. And it is disaster for blue side. And I'm not sure which team is on blue side. Combat Gaming Evolved? That's blue?
Yes, Combat Gaming, is it Esports or Evolved? I think it's Esports.
Esports? Oh, pardon me. We are thrown right into the middle of the match, just like you guys are, folks. So we may not know exactly what the draft had to bear. We don't know exactly what the early game had to bear, but we're going to catch up as best we can because we do play our semis at the same time as each other. This Fancy Mustard coming topside is going to be chasing Blue Baconator under the turret, which is not a comfortable place for him to be, and Fancy Mustard gets an easy kill.
The Fancy Monster doing a nice fancy play. Catching the Blue Baconator, who is... They're not in LCS order. Give me a minute to fix that.
Wasn't even that fancy. He kind of just walked at the guy and right clicked
fancy
him.
for a Nunu.
True. That's about as fancy as Nunu gets. You're kind of right. No offense to Nunu mains out there. He's an incredibly deep champion. His two abilities are really, really hard to use.
There is a fancy play with the his passive and his ultimate.
Oh, is there? Oh yeah, because his passive empowers the next used ability now. I had completely forgotten that they slightly reworked Nunu for the 15th time.
It makes his
He's almost on Rise status at this point.
I may as well combine the two characters.
That is the ultimate form. The reworked champion. That'll just be his name. Hi, I'm Freak, and welcome to Reworked Champion Spotlight.
And Rigbone, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Rigby 1, I think, is what it's supposed to be, but maybe Rigbone? It's Rigbone. That makes much more sense. What am I doing? Do I know how to read? It's a good question up to again. Dumpa chasing after Dark Wings for sale, but he doesn't realize he's going into the zero that does absolutely zero damage.
It did scare off Dumpa from chasing Dark Wings for sale, so... Speaking of Dark Wings...
Original joke, do not steal. No one has made that one before. Alright, let's take a brief moment to catch up as best we can with the game as it's gone. It's very even between these two teams here, who are also, again, both new blood to Reverie. We've been saying this a lot tonight, but we've got a lot of new teams here. A lot of our veteran teams have not been showing up this month.
Combat Gaming was here last week, actually, and they're the ones who, I believe, took first place.
Were they? Well, there we go. We've got some new contenders on our hands. See, this is why I keep this guy around.
And yeah, the game is pretty much completely even, but Combat Gaming does have two Drakes very early, actually. It took it pretty much right away.
Here's the attempted gank onto a Cassidy, but that's pretty much what every gank is, onto a Cassidy post 6, just attempted. There's a beautiful hook actually back onto Russell My Jimmy's, but it's the wrong jungler coming into the lane. And Nunu is on the enemy team.
Axum getting harassed out by the Blue Baconator.
And this is a potential dive here. It's actually going to be answered by a teleport coming in from Blue Baconator. There's a Gnar going to be joining this fight quickly. Or actually, no, it was Norton from the mid. And joining in something fierce. Meanwhile, Gnar is getting some action topside. Trying to toss Axum against the wall, but not quite landing it. Dumpa diving under the turret here, tossing Russell My Jimmy's backwards a bit. And I'm sure rustling his Jimmy's somewhat. Blue Baconator continues to shove top.
Absolutely, and with that, Combat Gaming further extends their lead out. Actually, am I got these teams... Hold on, give me a second.
I've been trusting you, Effect. Have you been lying to me? Is Combat Gaming the red team? Oh no. I don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah.
Blue Baconator, though, building up to that Gnar passive is going to get a little bit of health back here, and the body slam hits him.
I may have mixed things up.
That's
Combat
important.
Gaming should be on the red side, so give me a minute to fix the everything.
Oh no! It's okay. I'm sure they'll forgive us. For 5 minutes of lost screen time or however long that was. I don't know if I'm going to be seeing Effect next weekend, though. We may need a new color caster on the desk. Covered from that one. We're talking to the administrators about it for sure.
Alrighty.
Just kidding. Aged Wizard, though, looking for some vision control. And it looks like it's been the Caitlyn Rakan lane so far that's been dominating down here. And as kind of expected, Caitlyn into Twitch does pretty well for the Caitlyn. But a lot of focus at the bottom side, even just in the portion of the match that we've been privy to. Does mean that there's some kills on the jungler and the mid laner now. Is actually in all of these ganks. The kills have gone to Dumpa and Norton. Slightly unfortunate for the Twitch, but it does. Rigbone still has enough gold to finish off his blade, and so he's still hitting something with a power spike here.
Absolutely. And that is... So that means that Comet Gaming is actually the ones who are slightly behind right now, and not the ones who are winning like that. I was confusing myself because I thought those players were part of Comet Gaming, because the brackets are telling me that they should be on blue side now, but they seem to have opted to take red side.
Oh, well, I mean, if the players agree to it, then that's fine by me at the very least.
Absolutely.
Dumpa again focusing on the mid lane here. We've seen him attempt this a few times, but it's kind of difficult to catch in on that Cassidy. Age Wizard chunked to a few hundred hit points though, and push back.
Absolutely. I guess he just wants to keep the pressure up on Dark Wings, but it's kind of futile a little bit.
Norton finds Dark Wings over the wall. He did have a pink ward in the bush. The Absolute Zero coming down, but it's not going to be nearly enough for the Cassidy. Quickening coming through does charm up Dumpa for a little bit as the body slam lands onto a teleporting blue Baconator, tossing the aggressor against the wall. Axum is made easy short work of, and this is going to be another dragon. Just plain and simple. This is very strange. It's the team without the Nunu that has 3 dragons by the 20-minute mark.
And it's worth noting that Dumpa has opted for a very aggressive build, going straight for that Trinity Force, so he's doing quite a bit of damage. I noticed he kind of blew up Dark Wings there.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes a lot of sense. He's been getting most of the kills in these games. Though right there, he did just give over 3 assists to his team, and mostly to Norton, who's now 4-0. And going for a damage Vi build has a really powerful spike in the mid game. Karma has a really powerful spike in the mid game. Twitch, actually, after Blade of the Ruined King, has a pretty significant spike in mid-game, and you're going to see it in this team fight right here. Babe diving into the backlines. He finds himself in a 4v1, though, for a little bit, but he is moderately tanky, and he's got quite a bit of CC. Maybe he can buy enough time for his team. Norton still harassing away this Cassidin, but eventually Thresh will fall. Meanwhile, though, Rigbone claims the, well, what remained of the Caitlyn's health bar. A 2-man knock-up. There's a beautiful entrance, grand or otherwise, from Aged Wizard. But Dumpa and Norton are still willing to fight this. There's the flash forward, the 3-man collateral damage. Pardon me, no, that's Graves' ulti. The other cone ability, Vault Breaker. And it's a double kill for Dumpa. Potentially a triple kill. He goes over the wall and he claims.
Dumpa continuing to go off. And it's going to most certainly be a finished Trinity Force, and then I'm very curious to see what he builds next.
I can't be crass on stream, but Dumpa is taking himself on the enemy team. Seriously, he's doing quite well on this buy, and I think it is exactly the right choice to go for Triforce buy. Not only because of the lead that he has, but also the composition that he has. He's got a team that really does spike hard at this point in the game, and so building to that strength makes a lot of sense. It does mean that if they actually make it all the way to the end game, on the other side, then we could see a bit of a reversal this match, but it's going to be a tall task to get there.
Absolutely. Norton also doing very well for himself, 4-0 and 6. Just been kind of quiet in comparison to Dumpa. And Blue Baconator continuing to be a gnar in top lane.
And it looks like Gotta Win Faster living up to their name.
You're putting a ton.
I'm going to try not to make too many jokes with that name. It just feels a little too easy. But there's a toss against the wall for Blue Baconator. A flash over the grand entrance, and he's out.
Very well played.
I mean, simple, but yeah. Unfortunate that he had to burn the summoner, but it's preferable to dying in that situation. And Karma teleporting to the bot lane is going to answer Cassidin's shove. maybe an outer turret falls down here. That is one thing that Gotta Win Fast are missing at the moment. They've not taken all the turrets they could have. I think off of some of these plays they could have pushed a little harder for more objectives, but they focused on dragons more than turrets, and it certainly paid off.
Absolutely. 3 dragons at 21 minutes is pretty decent. They're actually really decent. Very good. I shouldn't downplay it. It's pretty solid at the 20-minute mark.
That escalated
Yes.
quickly. Pretty decent to really decent to good to pretty solid.
Definitely not liquid.
In fact, we're supposed to be unbiased here.
Nope.
Don't gush about the teams.
And they're looking for plays here, but... Oh, here we go.
Dumpo's gonna find one. This Fancy Monster getting chunked to half. This is probably the tankiest member of the enemy team, but he still will eventually go down to this Vi, and Age Wizard is Dumpo getting chunked though. He's gonna back
He
away.
is on the squishy
No
side
kill,
build-wise.
Yeah, that is the downside of going the damage build for Vi. Norton, though, is still too much for Dark Wings for Sale to handle, and so the shove bot lane will eventually turn into an outer turret. We'll see whether or not Dark Wings teleports down there after this base. No, he doesn't have to. It doesn't seem like Karma's shoving it as hard as she could. Okay, interesting. The turret will likely still go down, especially with the Vi's help.
That is going to be the not last outer turret, but one of the last outer turrets for Combat Gaming going down. That top one is almost dead. So close.
And if you're on the side of Combat Gaming, you're about to lose your mid laner, which isn't good. But you also have to think about ways back into this game, and maybe one of them is sneaking a Baron with your Nunu composition, while your mid laner distracts 4 members of the enemy team. That seems pretty solid.
They're trying, but...
You don't have great damage to bring it down that quickly, though. It's only just at half health, and the enemy team is about to arrive. We've got a very small window of opportunity to grab their opportunity here. Nunu's Smite plus the Consume does manage to secure it, but this is going to be carnage in the Baron pit. It's a double kill. It's a triple kill. It's not a quadra kill, because Karma took it, but it's still quite an impressive display. And Gotta Win Fast are going to answer back something fierce for that Baron take.
Absolutely, they do manage to...
I don't know if Kassadin was alive in time to get the Baron buff. Let's see.
Don't think he was.
No, he wasn't.
So
So there were no Baron buffs left surviving after that.
and with 4 members dead, they're easily going to be able to take this inhibitor turret and take the inhibitor. At 24 minutes.
Not the fastest match we've seen tonight, but that's only because there was an 18-minute match from Last Hope. So it's hard to quite reach that standard, but I would say that Gotta Win Fast are certainly doing a good job.
And they are moving in onto the next dragon right as it spawns. Perfect timing.
And this is going to be a Mountain Drake, their second of the game, which will only give them more pressure shoving into these remaining few turrets.
Absolutely.
Impressively enough, top lane outer turret is still up, but that's probably just because Gotta Win Fast has never really shown up in that lane.
Absolutely. It's just been Blue Bacon and they're slowly pushing on the turret and just harassing like crazy.
And the Mountain Drake will fall. Not too terribly surprising, as Rigbone invades in onto the enemy jungle. And I think we see one base here weaved in between these dragon and turret takes. A few pretty potent items purchased from the side of Gotta Win Fast, and a return to form. The next team fight could very well end the game.
Absolutely. Just a second, they're saying the audio is desynced. Let me listen to it on my phone.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. So let's see if we can see if it's actually an issue, because this has happened before with people when it turns out it's not the stream usually. But I'll see if it is on my end. I'll be right back.
All right, I'll keep the stream going in your absence effect. Fear not. Rigbone looking for the engage, does have, I think he even has the Potion of Fury running. He does. He's going for as much of a mid-game spike as he possibly can get. And with that 2-item power spike plus a Fury pot, he just does some disgusting damage, right? He's got it. Elixir Wrath, pardon me. They changed the name on me a while ago. One way or another, though, that is a scary, scary Twitch. And I've said it a few times this game, but there's just a huge power spike right now that Gotta Win Fast acted on and have extended by doing so, because they are now so far ahead that I think the power spike is just going to last until the end of the game. They've got these champions that are stupid strong at this point, and they're ahead. It's going to be very difficult for CGE to come back in this. That top lane outer turret, basically standing gold at this point, does finally go over to Gotta Win Fast. And we'll see how they choose to close out this game. It is a small mercy that CGE managed to bring down that Baron, because it means that that isn't a point of pressure that Gotta Win Fast can use to pull them out of their base. But they may not need that point of pressure if they're able to flank in onto this fight. They are not too terribly scared of a turret at the moment. And trying to defend the secondary turret might be suicide, but here's the teleport coming in from the Kassadin. I'm a Babe taken down to half health, does pop the box. They pull Kassadin out of the side lane, which is something of a victory in and of itself. And now they're going to be joining up with Super Minions in the mid lane. There's the engage onto the Kassadin. Rigbone continuing to chunk away Axum. Playing the front line Twitch, I like it. He doesn't really have that much to fear from the enemy team. And now shoving in onto the Nexus turrets. The AD carry will start to shred these. This is likely GG right here. I mean, they didn't really manage to claim any kills, but CGE is scattered to the winds. Darkwings is standing underneath an inhibitor turret while his Nexus turrets are under fire. Rigbone is potentially going to 1v1 the enemy mid laner here. That is never a good sign when the AD carry kills your Kassadin at almost 30 minutes in. Nexus now wide open for the taking. Flash hook lands on Age Wizard, but he manages to flash away from the Flay, and actually Babe is the one who goes down. But it doesn't really matter. The Nexus is being whittled away at. Dumpa is legendary, a title well earned as the game finishes, and we are going into the finals.
Absolutely.
We're going to be back in just a few minutes, guys. Looks like Effect just got back as well. And yeah, we should be back very shortly.
Absolutely. Do not go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back. And we're back. That was fairly quick. We got to have a couple bands in the way, Vi and Camille, and we're ready to go.
Yeah, after Dumpa's performance in the last game on Vi, I'm not surprised to see it out of the picture. And Camille taken away from Cavelli makes a lot of sense as well. Cinder's a top tier pick, and we'll see what the next few bands are. Oriana up there too.
Hold on, I had the wrong tags, and then let me fix that real quick.
You still with me, Effect?
Yes, sorry, I have the had the wrong tags, so I'm fixing that real quick.
All right. But yeah, it is going to be Last Hope versus Gotta Win Fast, and I think if we see a game similar to the last one, Gotta Win Fast really do have to live up to their name in this finals, because Last Hope are a very coordinated team from what we've seen in the last few months of their play here at Reverie. And going to the late game against a team that is that coordinated can be very, very dangerous. I would love to see a Zareth pick. I don't think we'll see a Zareth pick, but who knows? Maybe we'll see it as a first pick.
And they're going to go for the safe and pick up the Zac.
Zac makes a lot more sense.
E-Thug was a monster on it in that early game that we saw, and was able to transition very well. And just
the answer, I imagine, here will be another high priority pick, potentially something like a support Lulu, or I honestly don't like the Lulu as much anymore. I would like to see something a little more in the AD carry role. Maybe they go for a Ashe or a Varus, but Gnar in the top lane. Okay. And Rek'Sai, the new Rek'Sai in the jungle.
That's true.
We get to see new
7.11 Rek'Sai, so that's going to be interesting. And the Gnar is a safe pick. It doesn't have a lot of counters. Man can do fairly well, and is decent in the late game. So that does let them save that mid lane pick for last, and it lets them save the bottom lane picks to see what comes up next.
So yeah, just in case you haven't played against it yet or haven't played it yourself yet, the new Rek'Sai has a few tricks up her sleeve, or up her chitinous barrier attached to her arm. Void Rush is no longer a globally focused ability. It's now got a range of 1500 or so, which is what's comparable to that? About Nocturnal range at like rank 1.
I think that sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, and if Rek'Sai lands damage on an enemy champion, they get marked with a new passive called Void Rush. Very creative. She can then activate Void Rush on a marked enemy and burrow into the ground, vanish for 1.5 seconds, and emerge underneath them and pounce towards them. So it's a gap closer after landing your Q on someone. A lot of players are feeling that perhaps the 1.5 seconds is a bit too lenient to the opponent. The jump animation is also kind of lengthy. So if you're even just moderately quick in your reflexes, it is very possible to sidestep or use a mobility skill to get out of the way of Rek'Sai's ulti. But that combined with some new damage scaling, the fact that her ult now does damage at all, and her passive healing much more than it used to when she's underground, makes Rek'Sai a much more powerful backline diver, and not as much of just a big bruisery tank wall that Rek'Sai used to be played as. So I'm interested to see what the build pattern is here for Dumpa, but we've got a lot of more picks that have come through since I've started. It's going to be a Lucian solo lane because that's an Ashe, and a Janna as a very safe support pick for whatever AD carry Rigbone wants to pick up.
Now the question is that a top lane Lucian or a mid lane Lucian? Probably mid lane, I would guess.
I've actually seen more top lane recently than mid, but I've seen both. They're both pretty crazy, and I am as much on the fence about this as you are. And I just want to play devil's advocate. The top lane is actually a possibility still. I don't think it does super well into Gnar though. Usually it's picked to bully and harass melee tanks and things like that.
Gnar is not one to be bullied usually, unless they, of course, get behind and it's something that can kill them very easily. And Draven is being hovered.
I would personally love to see a Draven, but I don't think it's the best idea alongside a Janna, because Draven generally wants to have an aggressive lane where he can start to bully out the opponents after getting just a little bit of AD. Whereas Janna doesn't do that so well, not necessarily incapable of doing it, but you'd want something like a Thresh or maybe even a Leona if you want to go ham in that direction. And Caitlyn Janna makes a lot more sense, much more internally synergistic in that duo lane.
Absolutely. And so, and now that's just going to leave a mid lane open for Norton. And we see Kennen locked instead as a
top Kennen. Support Vel'Koz,
top Kennen, mid Lucian. Yeah, I agree.
That's what I think is most likely, but it could, there's a lot of configurations here. It could theoretically be a top Lucian and mid Kennen. Could even theoretically be a Kennen support and mid Vel'Koz and top Lucian. Whatever's going on here is very odd, and I'm very excited for it. And Viger gets picked. We're kind of even glossing over the fact that there's a Viger in this game now, because this is such a crazy game. And this is a best of one. Like, this is not a game that you throw away. There's not a series here. You can't play some experimental stuff in game one and then really buckle down for game two. There is no game two. Whoever goes home here goes home with the 4 qualifier points, advancing towards the end of month tournament.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's a top Kennen. Yeah, so our first assumption was right.
Yeah, I mean, it does make the most sense. Vel'Koz's support is actually pretty powerful, very high damage in the lane. The problem is Vel'Koz's support is really, really squishy and really easy to engage on. But if you're going to pick Vel'Koz's support into any matchup, the matchup that's Janna Caitlyn does kind of make the most sense there, because they're never going to be hard engaging onto you. They're never going to be taking advantage of your immobile, squishy nature. And you can actually land quite a bit of poke from the same sort of range that a Caitlyn can work at.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, though. Curious to see how the Lucian's going to play into a Veigar.
Yeah, that is more interesting for Wasori, I think. One way or another, though, we have 2.5 minutes before we get onto the Rift, and I'm going to spend them in confused speculation.
Absolutely. So on that note, we'll be taking a quick commercial break, and we'll be back onto the Rift as soon as we're there. So we'll be back, folks. Don't go anywhere. And we're back. Just give us a moment and we'll be on to the Rift. There we go.
And for one of the most exciting finals that I've had to look forward to in a little while, Last Hope is fielding a Lucian mid and a Vel'Koz support. But it doesn't end there. We're facing off against the new Rek'Sai, which I've wanted to see for a little while now, and a Veigar mid, who's going teleport as well, so there's some global pressure there. And it does mean that he isn't as powerful into Wasori's Ignite in terms of early laning. Pardon me. So we may actually see some explosive action in the other direction that we anticipated in the mid lane. Norton could be in trouble in the first few levels. Before Veigar has level 6, before he's managed to stack up some AP and buy some items, I would imagine Lucian actually has something of an upper hand in that
Absolutely.
matchup.
But once Norton does start getting that AP stacked up and get some items, he could just right-click Wasori and Wasori will melt. So we'll probably see something like a Hex Drinker built relatively early.
That does make no sense. Though it kind of plays into the hands of the top laner, jungler, of course AD carry, to build that magic resistance first. Thank you for the chorus of dance emotes and laughs, by the way. Gotta win fast. I appreciate it.
And with that, they are going to spread out.
I'm sure the spectators do too.
I'm sure they love it.
It's like the camera wants us to hear Veigar laugh. It's just following him around everywhere. Oh my god, do you remember? I don't know how long you've been playing Effect, but way back in season 2 or 3, maybe the end of 2, beginning of 3, there was a bug with the Mumu where his laugh was
I
global.
do remember that, yes.
I don't know how the code went that spaghetti, but it is one of the best recorded bugs in the game. I honestly think it was some very, very twisted developer at Riot who did it as some sort of April Fool's joke or something. I'll have to look back and see when the bug happened. If it happened towards the beginning of April, I'm going to be very suspicious because that just seems so specific. It's even specific to the champion. Anyways, that is ancient history at this point. We're in Season 7, and Rigbone is getting bullied back.
He's taking a very significant amount of damage. He's going to be forced to biscuit up there.
Wasori with a level 2 is dashing forwards, and this is what I anticipated out of the Lucian lane going into something like an immobile mage like Veigar. Until Veigar has a few levels, until he has that event horizon as well, he doesn't really pose a threat to Wasori. We can just kind of bully him around quite a lot.
We do see Dumpa making his way towards blue buff. We might see him gank the bot side. We see that Noah Most and Liquid Painless are being very aggressive with their push. They're trying to keep this wave shoved up.
Yeah, and Rek'Sai is still perfectly capable of doing some early ganks, getting some good early pressure down. Unburrow is still a very strong tool. So we could actually see Rek'Sai showing up down here soon, and it's going to have to be pretty soon because Rigbone is getting bullied away even more.
Absolutely. He might...
This Vel'Koz pick is actually working out really nicely with this
Absolutely. Rigbone just doesn't have the movement speed to completely dodge out some of those abilities just yet. So we might see him pick up some early boots to try and mitigate that poke just by walking out of the way.
The downside, I think, of the Vel'Koz pick is that it does leave them open to being ganked from the side, but a really great way to prevent that is to have incredibly thorough vision. And if you look at where their trinkets are placed right now, they've got ward nuts only in the river, but also across the wall on the blast cone that so many junglers like to use to try and skip vision and get into the bush that way. And so they spot that Rek'Sai was indeed bot side.
Absolutely. It looks like Rek'Sai's going to go and get that vision around the Drake. But his presence is going to give a little bit of breathing room to Rigbone and Babe.
Dumpa heading towards the mid lane, as Norton's very low on life, might not be able to help out with his gank. Meanwhile, bot side, though, the Tectonic Disruption gets just about sidestepped, and E-Thug is coming into the mid lane. Norton goes down. The Ignite plus a flash auto. Wasori claims first blood. And Dumpa now having to burrow away in shame. E-Thug might not let him get so far away. He's continuing the chase into the enemy jungle.
Unfortunately, Norton is not having an easy time here, and he just got too close to Wasori, who was able to flash and dump a little bit of damage onto his face and finish with an Ignite.
Oh, E-Thug. Cleverly waiting in the enemy bush, but maybe underestimating Dumpa's ability to duel him. He is going to chunk him by throwing him into his own camp, but there's the smite for the heal from Dumpa, and Norton has returned from base. E-Thug has to flash away. Bit off a little more than he could chew waiting in that bush.
So the Rek'Sai is certainly not lacking in the damage department.
Yeah, especially not since her touch-up of late. Rek'Sai has only become more of a damage threat and less of a tank recently. Which is one of the reasons why I'm happy to see a Rek'Sai. I want to see what higher tier players are building on this champion right now, because it's in turmoil. There are still people building her Cinder Hulk into just full tank, and there are players building them with a lot of extra damage and armor pen early on, but Norton with a nicely placed set of Christmas lights will be able to back away, but pays dearly for it.
He's going to have to back here. He has no other option. Just can't.
And he's already burned the teleport.
Yeah. You just cannot risk.
So he's...
Can't take the risk. It's just too dangerous.
Yeah, 10 CS back already. He's going to have a tough time scaling up in this game, but I suppose it is sort of an inevitability. Eventually he will be able to scale. That eventuality is going to come a long while from now, and for a team named Gotta Win Fast, this Viger pick is not going to work out very quickly for them.
Speaking of, Blue Bacon is also struggling in that top lane against Cavelli. There is a CS lead slowly expanding out.
Dumpa paying for some assistance as E-Thug, flashless mind you, is invading in onto the enemy wolf camp. Viger roaming from the mid lane is going to be helping E-Thug out with a, or pardon me, going to be trying to catch E-Thug out with a quick stun.
The stun, if it had been placed a little bit
it.
further down, would have caught him, but E-Thug managed to just clear the
Yeah.
entire thing.
Even years after his release, players continue to underestimate exactly how far Zac can go with his stretching, or pardon me, his elastic slingshot. It is incredibly long range, full combo from Painless, and that hurts something fierce. Rigbo now getting flashed onto. I don't know if Noah can actually finish the kill though. It's a little bit of an over-aggressive flash forward.
Absolutely. Doesn't quite have the damage. Has the attack speed, but
oh, this is a little bit of a misalignment of skills. Dumpa showing up after the event horizon wears off means that there's no stun for Wasori, who's now just going to turn back onto Norton and drop the full combo.
And speaking of,
this has been such a mid-focused game, and it's worked out much, much better for Last Hope. Only that one kill too now, as Wasori gets a second. But the CS lead is growing drastically, and the level lead is already pretty painful.
absolutely, it's a CS lead in pretty much every lane. So, it unfortunately is just going to continue to extend at this rate. Hello.
I don't think the Ashire landed.
I don't think it did either.
Yeah, it got avoided. But still a worthy shot from Noah Most. You miss 100% of the arrows you don't shoot. And Cavelli teleporting in means that they have invested enough to take this bot lane turret.
That does mean Cavelli used TP to get there, though, so it is going to give Baconator a little bit of room to catch back up and farm. But
he's going to get a few waves into the turret as well, but he doesn't have the time nor the confidence to go for a turret take. And E-Thug is again in the enemy jungle, stealing away a red buff this time. He's been caught out a few times going for these aggressive plays, but he's never really been fully punished for them. He's had to burn a flash, and that's it.
absolutely. Speaking of,
with this red buff, he might actually be able to claim the kill here. He pulls Baconator back under the turret. Cavelli now rushing forward as a ball of little hamster fury. And Baconator goes down.
actually Baconator just didn't have the opportunity to get away, and E-Thug helps picks up another kill.
Last Hope playing another pretty dang clean game of League of Legends here. There's the knock back onto the Janna, who has to flash away as a result. And they just picked, in this draft, winning lanes across the board, and they are making use of them. E-Thug diving to the back lines, but he's going to find himself trapped. That is not a friendly cupcake. Oh, no.
Goodbye, E-Thug.
The overextension that finally killed the jungler.
Ethug's aggressiveness, unfortunately, does make him pay that time, but I don't think that's going to be enough to curb that aggression.
Likely not. Once a Zac player, always a Zac player.
Absolutely.
That's not true at all. Zac has fallen out of meta so many times. For a champion made out of goo, he's not very flexible.
For sure.
In terms of meta.
Oh boy. There is some vision there.
You have to look at what's been the result of these kills, though. It's 3 kills to 1, not a huge discrepancy there, but the kills that have gone over the last hope have been used to their maximum effectiveness, whether it's to take a turn in the bottom lane or just gain massive CS lead across these lanes. They've made use of everything they've gotten, whereas that 1 kill onto an overextending Ethug didn't really amount to much more than 300 gold for one person. As Dumpa does not actually have... Oh, he does have the ulti available, and Blue Baconator flashing into the turret is going to... But Cavalli turns back around and gets the kill, and Dumpa can't follow the dive.
Unfortunately, Dumpa was not anywhere near close enough. He had the flash, but I don't think that would have been enough to cross that distance.
Again, just a misalignment of skills, a miscommunication between solo laner and jungler. We saw it earlier with far less disastrous consequences when Dumpa went in as the stun was evaporating for Norton. But now, I think they could have had that kill. Blue Baconator flashing for the stun against the wall could have led to a Void Rush from Dumpa. He had a guaranteed Praise Seeker against the stunned target, but he had already turned back. He was unburrowed at the time. And now this is coordination. Ethug didn't land his knockup, but it doesn't seem to matter. Lifeform Disintegration Beam slowing down Rigbone as he gets back under the turret. Let's bounce, pulling him back towards his demise. And Ethug just about holds on to his life.
Managed to pick up that blob at the very last second. And poor Rigbone, unfortunately, popping the flash and heal was not enough to get him out of there alive.
You know, I just realized something. In this latest ituration of Rek'Sai, we lost something that should be near and dear to every person's heart who plays this game.
Oh.
There's no more Void Rush to Rek'Sai tunnels. So on Pool Party Rek'Sai, there's no more jet ski animation. That's horrible. Don't laugh.
Maybe they'll find a way to incorporate it into...
That is the biggest nerf any single champion has received in this. And I stand by that statement.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
You shouldn't, but you can. Wasori being donated to the blue buff, which is going to continue to lather on this pressure to Norton, who doesn't need any more of it, but I'm sure he's going to get it. And it'll just be a matter of time, really, for Last Hope to close out this game, unless something this song and dance. Wasori playing around that stun nicely. Babe going to be popping his ulti to keep Norton healed, but Wasori's taking this 2v1 like a champ. There's the Ignite dropped on the Babe, dashing forward, the Blade of the Ruined King for a little bit of extra burst. Dumpa around the corner is just going to be more fuel for the... Another flash for another double tap. It's a double kill off the passive. Rigbone now stunned up by Cavalli, and they are killing them under the watchful eye of their turrets.
Their turrets can only look on in horror as his team falls. And with that, now we see Norton is going to be forced to
they don't look on for very long. Yeah, turrets are going to be starting to crumble as well. And not only this outer, but there's a heavily injured secondary turret in the bot lane. There's a Rift Herald just taken, which I'm sure will herald more turret takes in the future. If you see what I did there. I would hope you did. I don't think you have to be Vel'Koz to see what I did there.
What if Vel'Koz can't see it? His eye is just for show. He's actually blind.
There's only one Lee Sin in this game.
Yeah, but Lee Sin has 2 eyes that are blind.
There's enough blind to. And in the first showing of Rek'Sai since her rework on Reverie, I'm frankly disappointed. And I don't think it's all entirely Dumpa's fault. He's not had a single winning lane to work with here. Every single lane from the get-go was falling to pieces. But there's definitely been some severe miscommunication between, in particular, the solo laners and this jungler. The ultimate landing onto Janna is not ideal, but Ethug is going to make it work, and he pulls this Vygar back for an easy kill to Wasori, his 5th of the game.
Sawyer has that Phage now, going to be working on that Black Cleaver.
And here's the Herald, summoned from the void to claim some turrets. Going to be at least getting one. That was actually really clever interrupt from Babe, but he pays for it with his life, so maybe less than clever. I didn't realize that if you knocked up the Rift Herald during that charging animation, it actually canceled the charge. Right? Maybe it's only like at the very start of it. I'm not sure. More research is needed. Ace in the hole will do very little to deter Last Hope from shoving in.
And that is going to be an inhibitor at 15 minutes.
This is an inhibitor at 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's disgusting. That's 3-1 lanes in one game. What that comes from.
Absolutely, and it's just CS leads everywhere, kill leads everywhere. Got a dragon coming up in 2 minutes, but with that middle inhibitor down, that opens up Baron very easily. They could also just rotate to bot and take that turret.
Last Hope, having finished off some pretty powerful item spikes, are not going to be letting go of the gas pedal here. The heat is on, and they've got quite a few kingdoms which they've conquered, apparently. They've 3 Blades of the Ruin King across their team. What a meta we live in.
And it looks like Last Hope will be winning fast, and gotta win fast needs a Last Hope. Their names are reversed.
I see what you did there. I see that. Taking her stunned up. There's that blade doing work, chunking away at their Gnar regardless of health. And there's another stun, but of course, with 20 faster, the second stun does not last nearly as long. However, it looks like it'll last long enough. Continuing to chase, Cavelli gets the rampage.
Absolutely. Bacon is so far behind, unfortunately. He doesn't have the power to deal with Cavelli, as Cavelli has just exploded.
And you can just extend that as an allegory to this whole game. Last Hope being Cavelli and Bacon being gotta win fast in that situation where you don't have the power right now. It's a 10k gold lead at 16 minutes. Very, very rarely does that happen, and even more rarely do you come back from it. But there's the Ashe ulti onto Rigbone. Again, a beautiful knockup from I'm a Babe. It's little things like that that I really enjoy seeing in a player, but Ethug whipping on his ulti doesn't pull anybody back. Does have Elastic Slingshot charged up, but he's not going to be diving an inhibitor turret, at least not this time. I'm sure soon we'll see that. If any inhibitor turrets are left standing, that is. And we'll see it right now. There's the knockup onto Norton, followed up by a second one from Painless. And Dumpa trying to chase back the enemy team is going to be met with a face full of arrows. A flash away from the Ashe, though. A teleport onto the Zac Loblet. And Ethug will actually, in the end, die to Norton. Does pay for his aggressive ways. But, you know, I think what he paid for is worth more than the cost.
Absolutely. That is going to be the next inhibitor going down, and we see this coffin is certainly just getting more and more nails, and it might be overkill at this point.
Yeah. Last Hope is just kind of in a competition with themselves to see if they can end this game faster than they did their semifinals. They're playing League against their own record now. You know, like in those Mario Kart games where instead of racing against the other players, you just race against a ghost of your previous time? That's kind of what Last Hope is doing this game.
And they're going to back off. They've got that inhibitor. They're just going to go grab the next dragon, because why not?
It doesn't look like they'll beat it, though. Their last time was just 10 seconds from now, if I recall. Maybe a minute from now, if we're being generous. So, this is disappointing.
Unfortunate. But that is an Infernal Drake, which of course is very handy. They're just going to rotate top probably and continue to push.
And just look at the discrepancy between any of these two members, but particularly these two junglers, where Dumpa has gone for the tanky Rek'Sai build, and I can't fault him for it. He's not really got the fuel to put together a damage build in this game. But if you just compare even just the tankiness of these two members, Ethug has a Warmogs past his Cinderhulk. How much health does this man even have at this point? 3,000 health at the 18-minute mark. That is twice the health of most of the members of the enemy team. The numbers, in basically everywhere we look for Last Hope right now, the numbers are absurd.
Absolutely. The only one who's died is Ethug, but he's a Zac, so it's not going to bother him that much dying.
Dumpa having to flash over the wall to get away, but Looks like his journey may not yet be finished. Nice dodge on the stretching strike, but it doesn't seem to matter. Deeko gets the kill nonetheless. There's the Matter Disintegration Ray. Liquid Painless claims himself one. A double for him as the support goes down 2. Zonia's will buy a few moments, but that's all that Norton will get. They are ended very swiftly.
And that is an ace.
Speaking of ending things swiftly, this is a sub 20-minute game once again from Last Hope to claim the finals and 4 qualifier points for our monthly tournament.
Valiant effort by Gotta Win Fast, but unfortunately Last Hope just taking that by storm and rushing down the gates there.
Yeah, they took their opposing team's name as advice, it seems.
And with that.
But that is going to be the end of our broadcast, the end of our tournaments for the day. I think Effect might have a few closing remarks, shout outs to our sponsors and such. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed, guys. It's been great casting for you.
Absolutely. That does mean that Last Hope took first place, Gotta Win Fast. Second place, they both get points going towards the Rift Cup. But it's also worth noting that Delusional Esports and Comet Gaming Esports are fighting over third and fourth, and they'll both also get points. So that does mean they all have potential to qualify for the Rift Cup at the end of the month, the last Sunday of the month. And on that note, that's going to be it for that. We do have a quick shout out to our sponsors. Some of you may notice the ads that we're playing during the loading screens, and that of course is Haste, which is a VPN service that you can use to help streamline your connection and make it a little bit easier to connect to games, because sometimes ISPs don't give you the fastest route from point A to point B. They'll make you go all over the place, and that can really mess with your connection. And then of course there's Wall History app, which is the application. Sorry, no, ignore that bit. We don't do that anymore. Vibi, which is the website we use to create our highlight reels. So you go to the website, you plug in a video, and you just chop out the bits you want and create your own highlight reel. You don't need to download any software. Very handy, very useful. And then last but certainly not least is Deeko, which is a website we use. Basically, they sell little miniature toys. They sell T-shirts. They sell all kinds of stuff. Lots of gaming apparel. So you can go check them out. And that's going to be it, folks. Hopefully we can see you guys next week, and that'll be it. Good night.